I'm Nicola.
And I'm Jay Percy.
And welcome to the Afro Animist Podcast. We are two Abia women and animist conjurers exploring witchcraft, healing and psychedelics.
The Afro Animist Podcast explores the secular through the spiritual, discussing life experiences through a sacred lens.
Here you'll get to hear talk about philosophy, metaphysics, occultism, shamanism, culture, healing, nature, animism,
the arts, conspiracies, psychedelics and witchcraft. Nothing is off the table in these discussions, which aim to get to the heart of what it means to be spiritual and Afro-diasporic in an increasingly sterile, authoritarian and Eurocentric world.
As Afro-Caribbean millennial Londoners, we keep it real whilst exploring the biggest mysteries of our multiverse. Join us in holding this space to cry, laugh, debate, build community and tear down oppressive structures.
Welcome, 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 beautiful, beautiful being of the multiverse. You are here on the Afro Animist Podcast with me, Jay Percy the artist.
And me, Nicola. And today...
Hi, Nicola.
Hi. And today we're going to be talking about Journeywork and Astral Projection, which I'm very excited about. Journeywork.
Yeah, we are natives to the Journeywork. I think the Journeywork has been such a big part of our spiritual journeys over however many years we've been engaged in this. So we're really excited to be talking about this today because this is some of the bread and butter of what we do within healing practices. It's certainly something that we do within Obia. So while we won't be giving away exactly what we do in Obia practices because it is a closed practice, we are going to be talking more generally about journey work because it is something that does transcend quite a few different cultures and has done for millennia. We now call journey work, or we mostly call journey work, like astral projection. I don't know, maybe journey work's the more intentional side of it. Maybe astral projection is necessarily thought of as the less intentional side, like you just astral project. I think we've said these words, well, I've said these words quite a few times now. Do you want to tell us what journey work and astral projection is?
Okay, so journey work is essentially dropping into a trance state and then going off on a visual journey. Now, I know some people who feel like that kind of is just maybe a form of meditation and like internal visualization, but from my understanding and my experience of actual journey work, when you are having the intention of dropping into a trance and doing that, then for me it's like you're actually going on astral journeys. So when we talk about that, it's quite hard to put into sensical words, I think, for me this morning. But there's a belief that, you know, if we believe in the soul and that we are a soul animating a vessel in this dimension, that then there's other dimensions that our soul can actually travel to. And, you know, this is very similar for me. It's very close to dream work, to lucid dreaming, astral projection. They all fall into like a very similar category. And I agree with you, Jay, in that these practices transcend culture. I mean, you may specifically learn, you know, shamanic journeying from a North American shaman, or you may learn dream work from an Aboriginal medicine man, or you might, do what we've done with Arabia, where you're learning a different kind of journey to work with the spirits. It doesn't matter what culture you're learning it from, it pretty much is exactly the same, or has the same kind of end goal. And this is something that we have carried through culture for aeons, for generations and generations. Pretty much every indigenous practice that I've studied from wherever in the world has had a form of journeying or astral projection. And I'm just gonna stop talking now so you can say something, because I could just go on.
Journey work, I feel like journey work is a term that's really recently becoming more prevalent. But astral
Hmm.
projection, certainly everyone's switched on their televisions and seen some kind of idea of what astral projection is. This idea of the soul like detaching from the body, whether it's sort of looking around this realm and you're going to see your like friend who's in another house, via soulflight, or whether you're actually going into different dimensions entirely. Um, we've got this very media curated idea of what astral projection is, right? And it
Mm.
looks so fantastical. It looks so like literal, where you're like literally like choking yourself out of your body while you like fly around and doing whatever. Um, when I talk about it, it's funny because that's perhaps not, it's not as like literally CGI'd. That's not what I see that astral projection and journey work as, but that's because I've been working in this space. I think prior to working in this space, I absolutely would have just written it off as something that, you have a gossip with your friends about on a school playground. Like, do you believe in astral projection? Do you believe in it? Ha ha ha. Really, it's about developing an understanding of how it works. You believe in Santa, you understand how the soul in the body can work and how it moves through space and time. Which is why it's particularly exciting to bring this episode to you today.
I just love that. I've now just got in my head, if you've ever believed in Santa in your life, then you could believe in astral projection. It's really not that far. Like, it's not that crazy a thing to believe if you believe that a man can just travel around to billions of households in one night and drop you off loads of presents. I don't know, whatever.
Maybe he was
Um,
astral projecting.
well, well, my darling, there's so many. Actually, if we go into the story of Santa Claus, we're
Thank
gonna go
God.
right into that shit. Yeah.
Oh my God, we're definitely going to have to do like a Christmas episode with all of these different myths and stories and how they actually stem from animism. That's going to be so much fun.
Oh my gosh. And we've only got a few months into a Christmas. We're already in the middle of the year.
Only a
Let's not
few
think about it.
months.
Oh my gosh. I find this to be one of the most useful tools that I've kind of developed over time. And I feel like actually the most natural for me
Mm,
probably has been journeying. And I think maybe there's an element where that could be true for a lot of people. I think it's really good to think of it as also just altering your state of consciousness.
yes.
We speak a lot about this, and this is whether or not you believe in the potential of other dimensions, or it kind of almost doesn't have to be so far out in that way, in that kind of explanation. You just have to think of it as altering your state of consciousness, and what a beautiful, exciting thing to be able to do. What's your experience then of, well, let's step, because I do feel like there's a difference between journey work and astral projection. There is a difference. I
Okay.
think they can
What's
100%
the
link.
distinction for you?
Well, I'm not an astral projector. I've had maybe an experience or two in my life that are that astral, what I would term as astral projection. But from my understanding, it's a different thing. So when I journey,
Mm-hmm.
um I don't have the sensation of leaving my body. I don't actually usually have a sensation of my body, because I guess the point is that you kind of drop past that point. um
Mm,
Whereas when you're astral projecting, I think there is an awareness of the actual having left the body. And
okay.
but in the same way that in journey work we have different worlds. So if you're talking about a traditional kind of, I say traditional, but I'm just kind of thinking about just the standard journey work that I've learned, which initially would have been a kind of North Native American type of journey work. Then you can have those experiences for sure, where you will go and leave your body, but that isn't normally what it is. So just
Mm.
before anyone kind of jumps on and goes, "Nah, they're all different," I just wanted to like kind of put that out there, because there are obviously differences between them. Not being an
Yeah.
experienced astral projector, I don't feel like I can say for sure. So, Jay, what is your experience when it comes to journey work?
I definitely have more experience when it comes to journey work than I do astral projection. And I'll explain some of that later.
Mm-hmm.
But journey work, um, for me, when I first started doing some kind of journey work, it was really what I'd like to call quite secular and really unintentional, we had some motivational speaker come into my school at the height of when I was like dabbling in witch shit. And he basically told everyone to close their eyes, and he got everyone to like visualize some form of their goal or vision, and literally place ourselves in there. So to take into account the smells, the sounds, the sights, touch, just everything that we experience in our goal life, and then to take us back and sort of think about how we're going to get there. Now, maybe to some people that's like, that's not journey work, that's just a motivational speaker class. But honestly, at the time, I did not appreciate it for what it was. It's only been in the last couple of years or so where I've been really actually training my mind to go into journey work, where I was brought back to that experience. It's like, wow, this idea of journey work is literally taking you to a place in space and time where your soul can exist, which is the most basic way of me thinking about it. And I know that there's definitely going to be naysayers like, oh no, but that's just your imagination. With with the amount of work that I've now done with Mother Mushroom and whatnot, I kind of have a theory as to what the imagination is in itself, and I think
Okay,
this
good.
probably this
Good, because
probably
I'm going to
skates
say
on the
something
board.
like
Yeah, this definitely
that.
skates on the border of wackadoodle for some people. For me, I am whole. This is my metaphysical understanding of the universe. Call me crazy. I don't care. I've seen it. I was there. I wasn't hallucinating. I wasn't making shit up. I was fucking there. Okay. I had one experience where I specifically wanted to feel more creative. Like I wanted to reach the peak of creativity. So I set an intention around that. I can't exactly remember the exact words I set, but in working with the mother mushroom, I then went into this like trance state with the types of musics that I have on the background. It's either like beating drum or specific music tracks I know that will take me into certain realms. That's a whole nother topic I need to get on later. We're definitely going to do a music one.
Oh, babe.
And music as a portal. Music is,
Yes.
I think, any of these things are friggin' portals, right? So I was taken to this place, and it was like a big room, and the room was just expansive. And there were like Muppets characters in there. There were like every cartoon character you've ever met. Any other piece of artwork you've ever seen is yet to exist, will exist. And I'm like, what is this place? They're like, well, you wanted to be more creative, so we've taken you to the imagination. And I'm like, what? It's a literal place? It's like, of course it's a literal place. You know it's a literal place by now. I'm like, of course I know it's a literal fucking place by now. So anything that ever exists comes from this place. And I was like, okay, so what does this mean? It's like, well, if it's a place, then you can go here. You can literally visit here whenever you want to pull something out of it. And that was a really bizarre message to get while working with the entheogens. But that journey work really, that journey with Mother Mushrooms really showed me what underpins journey work. And what underpins it is being able to take your mind to places that already exist. If you think of our brain, if you're thinking of our brains like computers, your brain would be like the device, the PC. And this imagination is like the cloud. And you can get your own private network access into this, but everyone shares it. So depending on what doors you unlock, you're going to get things specific to you, but you can also access things that are a lot more general. And somehow I think I've just gone on like a 5-minute rant about
No,
the
it's
imagination as a
been
journey realm.
it's been necessary and important, because this
Yeah,
is something I've had the same thing as you. Like, I didn't
yeah,
have as visceral an experience of understanding the imagination as that story, but
yeah,
like, as a creative, as a, I was always called daydreamer. I was always called, just that person who's sitting, staring out the window, imagining shit. And it
Yeah.
always felt like a negative thing, this imagination. But
Well,
then,
you're
but my
told it's
imagination,
a negative thing as a
it's a
child.
negative thing. Exactly. But
Mm.
it's my imagination is insane. And as an adult, I feel like so blessed that I still have this level of imagination. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember when I first started kind of doing some more spiritual work, and some journey work with the medicines, and having, being in the middle of a ceremony going, am I just making this shit up? Am I just making this shit? Am I just sitting in a room full of people who are just as crazy as me and we're just all making shit up and just feeding off each other, making shit up? Like, we're just
Yeah.
imagining this. I'm just imagining this. It isn't real. And then there was a moment when I fully realized that, what your point, basically, that imagination is a place.
You are
You
imagining
are.
it, but
It's a realm in itself.
imagining it shouldn't be a negative word.
It shouldn't be a negative
You're
word. Imagination is a realm. It is a place of creation. It is a place that you can go to, and it's this, again, it's about understanding this. Like, if we're limiting ourselves to just being human beings, to just being like material things, then we
mm,
can't really understand the usefulness of the imagination beyond kind of just like,
mm,
okay, well, we can kind of create new shit. But yeah, it's, I think if you can actually, if you're of this kind of thought, then I think it'd be really, really healthy to start considering the imagination as a really important tool. And actually, things that come from your imagination aren't not real. They are real. They just haven't been
yeah.
manifested in this realm yet. So I love
Well, this
that.
is
Thank
it.
you for picking up on that.
No, you're welcome. Look at any bridge, any beautiful building you see. That once existed within someone, and
Mhm,
it isn't just local to that person. You know, if you think of this idea of the Akashic realms, this or the Akashic records, which is supposed to be within the spiritual understanding, it's a record of everything that ever has existed or will ever
mhm,
exist, everything in time and space being the same thing, not separate. And you can, there are readers who will access these realms to be able to tell you and give you readings about your life and whatnot. And this works in a similar way. And do you know what really, it's so weird, like listening to other people's experiences, but I absolutely love to hear it. I think the weirdest one I heard was probably from my partner, who before all of this, he wasn't particularly into spiritual shit. He was pretty atheist. Not like Richard Dawkins, I'm gonna write a book and make a cult about it atheist. But like there isn't, you die, you become worm food,
mhm,
whatever. But on one journey, he said he was definitely taken to another realm because he was on an alien planet and he saw this flower, and there's no way his brain could have conjured up this like weird looking lily thing
mm,
on another realm. And he says he's gone to sleep sometimes or had dreams or closed his eyes, and he can go back to that place. He can literally teleport himself back to that place. And just hearing him sort of say, no, there are actually other realms. Not that I needed his validation, but I do think it's really beautiful to see when people are taken to these places when they're
mm,
previously like maybe skeptical about it, maybe slightly
mhm,
unsure about it on the milder end of things.
mhm,
Um, but that I think that's a lot of talk around like journeying with Mother Mushroom, and of course you can journey without that, and
mhm.
you do frequently. You do so much more away from the mushrooms than you do on it. That's right, right?
Who, me?
Yeah,
You
you.
said you, and I'm like,
Who
who,
me?
me? Yeah. To be honest, I don't do very much work with entheogens. In more recent years, it's
Mm,
not um been something that's been massively calling me, and I think
mm.
it's good to kind of come in and out of the practice that you need when you need them. So the
Yeah.
journey work that I've done, I mean, if I'm honest, it started through medicine ceremony, because that was the first place that
Mm,
I really um kind of was able to access this stuff in a way where I was being taught about something. Um,
yeah.
I definitely journeyed before ever meeting the medicines, but I wasn't necessarily aware of it. And when I was younger, when I was like 11, 12, I think I said in our first ever episode, spoke about this a bit. I was very much into lucid dreaming. I taught myself to lucid dream as a child and just did that for years, and it was fabulous. As I've gotten older, I haven't been doing that as much. I've actually struggled with my lucid dreaming, and it is literally the top of my list of spiritual or of practices to kind of get back on. But the journeying that I do would be kind of maybe known as more traditional Indigenous American journey work. But then I have also gone and studied with Celtic medicine men, or I don't know if that's right, shamans, whatever the right word is, and it's the exact
Would
same.
they be druids? I know, or were the
No,
druids just local to Wales? And
no,
yeah, it's a
druids
different
are a
thing.
different thing. Yeah, so
Okay.
I guess like, oh god, I don't want to butcher all the explanations of all these things, but like you have to think of shamanism as, we use the word shaman because
We 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 don't have
we don't have a
an
word,
equivalent word in the
yeah,
English
in the
language,
English language.
which yeah,
So it's confusing. So if I'm going to explain about those practices from this country, I would still call them shamanism. They'll be known as Celtic shamanism.
mm,
And they're not derived from North American shamanism. We just don't have another word to kind of explain what it is. But anyway, the practices are pretty much the same. So they're
mm,
based around having a minimum of 3 worlds that you can travel to, and then obviously beyond that there are infinite worlds. And we
mm,
usually do this practice with a drum. So drum is like one of the most ancient instruments. Again, every culture has a form of drum. And when you play the drum at a specific rhythm, or you play anything at a specific um, rhythm, and it is, I think, the 240 beats a minute, it can
mm,
completely retune your brain's frequency and drop you into another frequency. Now, when we do that, that's what I'm talking about, like altering your consciousness. Like once you've changed the frequency that
yeah.
your brain is vibrating at. Again, this isn't woo woo shit. This is literally science. It's like I've got things here that I can actually uh, pull up and give you the right information.
She's got her
Um,
dossier today,
got my
guys. She's
dossier,
got a whole
guys. My
dossier.
dossier.
She's got a
Dossier.
dossier.
Everything you could ever need in this little file. So we can talk about that changing, or that altering your state of consciousness, even just between
Yeah,
like sleep and waking. So when we're awake
yeah,
and fully alert, the brain is in beta. And you're normally breathing when your brain's in beta and you're awake like that about 18 breaths per minute. When we're asleep, it slows down your brain waves and you have about 10 breaths per minute. When you're sleeping, I think that brings you into the alpha state. Again, if this isn't
yeah,
1,000% right, I'm sorry, guys. And then when you drop into trance, you're in the theta
yeah.
state. And
Okay.
then when you're in theta, you're moving at an even slower, breathing at 4 breaths per minute.
Wow.
And yeah, so anyway, so we can measure this stuff with
Yeah.
a computer. Like we can measure it. These terms have been theta waves, alpha waves, beta, delta, these are all been given to the brain waves by science. So what we're talking about is what happens when your brain actually changes to be vibrating at
So
these
all of the
rhythms.
words that you're saying are the scientific component
Yes,
to what we're talking about. So when you journey, when you trance, when you dream, these are like the colloquial terms for these different alpha, beta, theta.
exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to Western science, Columbusing spirituality once again.
Woohoo. Whip whip.
It's so great living in a system where we need Eurocentric validation in order for something to be
Well,
accepted as commonplace.
I know. It's like this has been being done since the fucking dawn of human consciousness, Journeywork. The fact that we
Yeah.
now need in the 21st century to have a study that says, yeah, like we can literally plug you in and measure the fact that your brainwaves change when you go to sleep. I mean, duh. Thank you for giving me that.
We can stick these nodes onto a Buddhist monk's head, and we can see that when they are meditating, they are in a completely different state of
Exactly.
consciousness.
Exactly. And do you know what? It
Okay,
is
I mean we
frustrating.
don't know this, but
yeah, and it is frustrating. It is, especially when you're not an academic and
Yeah.
you do these things, and then you feel like you're doing
You get the
crazy.
eye rolls.
You get that eye roll. But on the flip side, I am glad, because of the world that we live in and because of the times that we live in, that science is doing this, because then it does actually give that thing. It's like, yeah, you can roll your eyes at me, but I know that I'm going into a trance because my brainwaves change. Okay,
Yeah.
science has told me.
There
So
are
it's
academic papers I can point to on what
academic
I'm
papers on
doing
this shit.
here and what our ancestors have done for thousands of
Exactly.
years.
You can download the CIA files about all this shit, guys. There's so much proof. But
And
yeah,
this
so
isn't
it's
this isn't just a sorry, this isn't just like a brown and black people thing either. You can go to
no.
sites in the UK where I think it was even in Scotland where they found this old like temple which when sound reverberates around it, it like plays back at a theta frequency. So we can understand from that their spiritual leaders would have used that space to put people into trance and journey states. So
100%.
it's been in everyone's cultures, um, but um, I think we're probably the people who have had it torn away from us the last. If you think about that Roman Catholic
Yeah.
trajectory through Europe,
Hmm.
Native America, the Mayans, mainland continental Africa, they got to keep a bit of this until
Hmm.
transatlantic slavery, and then it was fully like wiped out from the planet. Um,
Yeah.
I say fully. We still have people. We're here talking about it, so
They're talking
it
about
doesn't
it.
die
Yeah.
entirely. But yeah, I think it's just an interesting history, to be honest.
It is a very interesting history. You're right. And
Yeah,
again, this is, what I find so good about Journeywork, because I just feel like it isn't something you have to do. Okay. So
yeah,
you don't have to get yourself into a trance. I mean, obviously, the more kind of practices you do where you come to a place of stillness, like meditating, they're all going to help this kind of thing, and they're going to enhance your ability to stay in trance for a long enough time
mm,
to have an experience. But pretty much anyone could do this, and also we're talking about trance and visualization, and those words can be quite big and seem quite confusing. But again, like we're saying, trances can look like a thousand different things. They really can. And when with the kind of trance that we're talking about now isn't a trance where you're going to feel necessarily like you're even out of your body, or that you're not going to be aware that you're still in your bedroom or anything like that. It's just this subtle change in the frequencies of your brain. And it's
mm,
totally possible for, I think, most people to be able to do that. And especially if you have tools like you have a drum, or
yeah,
I mean, there's loads of drumming tracks and things like that on YouTube that are the 240 beats per minute, which is the rhythm that has been proven to bring humans naturally into
mm,
trance. Um, there's the I think the thing in common, like I've said to you, is about the worlds that I've found with the different journey works that I've done, and they all center around three main worlds. So the
mm.
middle world, which is kind of like a reflection or a mirror of this world that we are in now.
Midgard. Sorry.
Midgard or Mordor. Right? Let's mix up this. Um, and then you have the lower world, which tends to be the
Yeah.
place that you would go on a journey to if you wanted to um, like meet your power animal, things like that. And then we have the upper world, which is again a place where you would maybe go to meet your spirit guides or more angelic type beings. And then beyond that, there is the underworld, and then there are all these other worlds kind of beyond that, and they've and different cultures have kind of built these palaces, or have these astral, I call them astral palaces, basically, the astral dimensions.
Yeah.
They may have built them slightly different, but they tend to all have the same kind of thing. And then again, a lot of cultures do versions of soul retrieval, which is done through journey. So you go to different
Mm.
worlds to where the soul has. Anyway, it's a whole different thing. Um, so for me, it's been such a beautiful thing actually being a person of mixed heritage in
Mhm.
England, and having
Mm.
found this practice of journey work, which no matter where I look, it is the same. It feels like it's the
Mm.
human's practice.
So why would we do this? Isn't this just frivolous witchcraft?
I love it when you say that. Yeah, it is. No, it's,
Of course it
gosh,
is.
there are so many reasons you would journey. There are so many
Mm,
reasons. That you can journey to uh learn about yourself. You can journey to retrieve parts of your soul. So in certain cultures, they believe that when trauma happens to you, you lose a little bit of yourself. So a bit of your soul goes back to the mother, essentially, to Mother Earth or to the lower world, to be held there safely until you are ready to reintegrate that back into your life. Now,
mm,
psychologists also, I've heard psychologists who are soul retrieval practitioners who also say that it's the same. Soul retrieval is the
mm,
same as psychology. It's just you're doing it in like a visual way. And then for me, there's this other aspect of where I actually feel like those dimensions, those things are real. Um,
mm.
then there's, what was your question? Because I feel like I went off on a tangent. Why would we
Why?
journey?
Why?
Why would we journey?
This is
There's
why
loads of
we're
reasons.
here. This is why our
Yeah, you,
listeners are here. They're here for the tangents.
for the tangent. Okay, thank
Tangent.
goodness. Then you could also journey because you want, I've journeyed about the work that Jay and I do together. So like our
Mm,
podcast and things, I journey for advice, I journey for help, I journey to connect with my guiding spirits and animals and things like that, to give me different kinds of support and different kinds of understanding. And some days that feels like I'm traveling to a whole different dimension and I'm receiving like the most divine information that genuinely could not have come from anywhere in my brain. And other
yeah.
days it feels like I just had to go on a journey so I could think about things a little bit differently. It definitely comes from my brain. But there's a
Yeah.
benefit from doing it. Sometimes I think of it as just another way of looking at things. Sometimes when you're sitting and you're thinking about a problem, for example, you're trying to get
Mm,
through that problem by thinking about it, sometimes isn't the most useful thing to do, but a journeying creates an action around that. You
yeah.
could you can journey because you just want to understand the nature of the universe. I think ultimately journey work and lucid dreaming, astral projection, from my understanding, these things are really there to teach you about the nature of consciousness. So if we
Yeah.
bring it out of like, oh my God, I'm going to learn to like astral project and my soul's going to be flying around in it, all the fun shit. Like actually the whole reason we would be able to do this as humans is so that we can begin to understand consciousness and our
Yeah.
separation from our bodies. And I think, and then beyond that, there is, for example, in the Tibetan tradition of lucid dreaming, astral projection, in Tibetan Buddhism, they believe that there's a certain amount of time, I think it's like 40 days, when you die, when your soul
Hmm.
is kind of in this between place. And if you can maintain consciousness in those 40 days
Mm.
after your physical death, then you can then go on and be um, uh, like conscious in a
That's
different
so
way rather than just
fascinating because
being
the
rebirthed into the samsara
yeah,
again.
the book of Coming Forth by Day,
Hmm.
commonly known as the Egyptian Book of the Dead,
Yeah.
and wrongly known as the Egyptian Book of the Dead,
Hmm.
also talks about this.
Yeah.
Because I have both the Tibetan Book of the Dead and I have the Coming Forth by Day,
Okay.
and there are a lot of similarities in this. Like death, there's this period of around 40 days
Mm.
where um, your soul has to go through some kind of trial or something for it to come out
Yeah.
the other side. Those two countries couldn't be further apart. I just think it's so fascinating that somehow they've come to this same conclusion,
Well, maybe
and
that's,
they're both cultures that base around journey, or both practices that base around journey work or use a lot of journey work.
yeah. I think you have to kind of think about the fact that we are taught that human beings just fucking stayed put until Columbus came around and fucked everything up for all of us. But actually, the reality is that we are nomadic, migratory. We are fucking curious, and
Yeah.
for a very, very long time have been traveling between like long distances between countries. And a lot of these
Oh yeah,
practices, I think
totally.
you can see that, so even though these places
Mm.
seem to be like in opposite, very far away from
Yeah.
each other in the world, the practice is the same. Think of a different time when it was actually maybe more possible. Maybe travel was harder, but when you went
Hmm.
to places or got to countries, passing on information was easier. I don't know.
Yeah.
um, you know
Mystics and maesters moving between towns, giving each other books and whatnot.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a lot in there when it comes to the migration of practices. in the sense that actually I think it is quite hard for any one culture to turn around and go, this thing is mine and that's that.
So what do you do in order to what do you do? How do you journey?
Okay, so I just really simply lie down. I fucking love lying down. If there's a practice that's lying down, I'm going to do it. And so for me, it's about getting, you get really comfortable.
Mhm.
And then for me, like I said, it's the drum. The drum is the tool that I will use.
Mm,
So sometimes I will play the drum for myself, but majority of the time I like to just put on a drumming track and have that
mm.
playing. And tell you what, if you can have if you can have your drumming track in your headphones, lie down, then it's literally like your brain is just completely taken over by the the vibration sound.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I just drop in. So the thing to do with journeys is always set an intention. And I know we've spoken about this before, but why are you doing the thing if you don't have an intention? Even if your intention is to
Mm,
explore, even if your intention is to discover journeying, set
mm,
the intention. A really good intention, I think, to begin with, if you haven't journeyed before, is to meet your, like, a power animal. So a
mm,
guide for your life right now, and go to the lower world to do that. So normally I will choose where I'm going to go. It doesn't always happen like this. That choice on where I'm going to go will be dependent on what my intention is. So yeah, so I'm saying today, okay, I really want to go, and I want to meet with my power animal, or this power animal that I have, in order to uh, find out some information about this project, for,
mm.
whatever. And then I will go down and do that. So the human mind works in a very interesting way. Like, we sometimes the brain needs to kind of feel like, it's hard to describe, like a certain action of the thing you're doing. So when I'm going to the lower world, and this will be the same if you do hypnotism, it will be the same if you do yoga nidra, like you have to create or imagine the sensation of going down. So
Mm,
usually I will find a tree or a cave or something. I'll imagine it. It can be a real thing that
mm,
you've really been to before. So if there's a tree that you really connect with in real life, then you can just imagine that tree. You're going to imagine there's an opening in that tree, and then you're going to go down. And so the sensation of going
mm,
down a dark tunnel then helps your mind drop into that
mm,
vibration of going down. And then again, you do the same thing. So you'll go down, and then you'll enter your lower world, and that lower world will look to you, or whatever word you're in, it will look to you how it's going to look to you. You may not have the same experience as anyone else, or you may find that you do have similar visualizations to other people, depending on what you're doing. Once you
mm,
got to low world, you can then go off in your journey, and then you reverse it. So you come back out, you go back up that tunnel, bring
mm.
yourself back to this world. So those are the things that I think are really important, is setting your intention and then making sure that you enter and exit properly, just for yourself, so
Yes.
you can come back. But then I do, there's a lot of things where a lot of people get scared about journey work, and they get scared, like, oh my god, am I going to get lost? Am I going to meet, you know a
Bad
demon? Am I
entities.
gonna,
Yeah.
da 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 da? And you can't get lost, is actually the
Mm,
reality, I think, in this kind of work. And anything you meet will be something that you can handle a lot of the time. And I'm sure that some people would say different if you're doing
mm.
really advanced journeying work, but then I don't think you would have got to that place unless you had a deep understanding about those kind of entities and things you can meet anyway. So I
Yeah.
personally wouldn't worry about that. It is a really, really, really useful tool, and it's actually just beautiful to kind of, you can lie down and you can literally travel the universe for 15 minutes, come back, and then get on with your day. It's great.
Yeah. It's great. I was just picking up on what you said about like meeting some kind of, I guess, negative entity. Um,
Mm.
Nick and I have been trying to do regular journey work together. I remember you were doing this. I had one experience where um, I was like going to be attacked by a tiger of some sort. And instead of running away and, treating it like a fearful situation, I reminded myself in that moment that I can handle this. I am equipped to handle this. So as I've walked towards this animal that is seemingly going to attack me, it's shrunk into like a kitten size, where I've been able to pick it up and, like, what are you doing? Like, treat it like a baby. And I really do feel in those situations, if you are sort of doing the running and screaming in your mind, or you're like panicking about something that you've seen, then it exacerbates it. The problem just gets bigger. A lot of the time, you will be given what you can handle, but you've told yourself a story that you can't handle it. And the great place about going into these journey work realms is these are some of the best places that you can use in order to work out some of those fears, in order to
Mm-hmm.
conquer some of those fears, because in your heart of hearts, you know you're still grounded in this realm, but you can use that realm where your soul is at in order to work through that. And that's really a big goal for me when it comes to the journey work. The reason I do the journey work is because there's something in my life that I need to work out, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a trauma, whether it's an answer to a question. Um, I guess what I'm saying is these problems that you have in your life can manifest as things that you don't want to see. But if you
Mm.
run away from them, you're just going to see more of it. And it's just going to
Yeah.
be bigger and scarier. Um, I have some things here. I have like a show and tell. Do you mind?
100%. I do though just I want to say something about what you just said because I think it's really
Yeah,
fucking important.
go for it.
Um,
Sure.
so this whole thing, so you get prepped for your show and tell.
Yeah,
So this whole thing about like when you had that journey, Jay, I was like, wow,
yeah.
you received such a fucking deep lesson in that journey because I'd received that lesson, but in a workshop, as in I was being told that thing. Like, but you just fucking received it. Like, so you know, there's this thing when it comes to dreaming, so lucid dreaming. I went to a workshop with Charlie Morley, and he was speaking about your fear, right? So, you know, a lot of people like to do lucid dream work or journey work to, like you're saying, to kind of deal with fears and things like that. So imagine you've got a fear of spiders. I think this is what he said actually. So he had a fear of spiders, and he would have these dreams where there's like, you know, all these spiders crawling up him, or this massive fucking monster spider, you know, and the feeling that you have is that you want to run away. Now, part of becoming lucid, and becoming in control of that is to be able to take control. So, like, so he was saying, when you have an instance like that where something in your dream is scaring the shit out of you, the thing to do is always to go towards it because that is an aspect of your shadow. Which obviously, guys, if you're following, we spoke about last week. So these shadow aspects can also be dealt with. They can only be dealt with if you walk towards them and you deal with them in the thing. And he says for him, it's a similar thing. It's like all of a sudden this spider's there and it's really cute, or it's turned into a fucking bunny rabbit or something. Do you know what I mean? Because he's actually walked towards the thing and he's dealt with it. And in journey work, that can happen as well. Like, so you might meet a spirit or an entity, or you know, whatever it is, something from your imagination that is going to have some advice for you, and you receive it like that. But anyway, continuing with the show and tell.
Thank you. Thank you for backing that up. It's nice to know sometimes that it doesn't just come from your own crazy personal universe. It comes from the multiverse.
Comes from the
Um,
multiverse, yeah.
the multiverse. Okay, so I have a few different tools here. So, um, when I'm doing a lot of journey work, because I think I'm doing some more advanced stuff at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
I might have items that I like ascribe to certain realms,
Mm-hmm.
um, items or music, because if you, I guess, within the albeit practice, we work with like fetishes, so charms, items that we give a meaning or a power to. So we
Mm-hmm.
can use that. The simplest way of thinking about it is when you did your GCSE exams, you had a lucky pen. So we understand this concept of having an item have some sort of energy. So if I'm doing specific types of journey work, I will attribute specific energies to certain things I'm doing. So this is an amulet that I will tend to use. Um, it's a
Beautiful.
Labradorite, I think. Um, and if I'm trying to deal with a lot of past trauma type of journey work, this is the one I bring out, because by focusing on a physical object, um, and closing my eyes and really getting into that object, I can more readily transport myself to these places. That being, I guess, the woo-woo explanation. The more psychological reason is our brain, and I say this all the time here, guys, you're not new to this, you listen every week. Our brain is often better at understanding symbols than it is understanding the reality of things. We're very symbolic creatures. Um, so when you say people are say things like, "Oh, it's not that deep," like, no, the human brain is literally designed to think in terms of symbols. It's why every single company you know has a logo, because as soon as you see the golden arches, you are transported to that place of wanting their fucking food, right? Tangent over. Dealing with traumas. um, this one's very special because it was made by someone very special, and I filled it with some things. And when I'm trying to get back down to community or community healing, like healing myself and my relationships community, I use this medicine bag.
Oh.
Nicola made this, and I've filled it with various different types of herbs that I use specifically on my journeys when I'm trying to reconnect with, like, I guess my heart and my crown, and that sort of those centers that deal with community, right? So that's a very good one. Um, Generally speaking, I like to clear the space beforehand. So I'll tend to burn some kind of incense or herb that will relate to the work that I'm looking to do. So there's a reason why churches burn frankincense, right? It's once again going back into the psychology of linking our sense of smell back to, I guess, Christ consciousness. So in order to waft whatever incense I'm wafting around the house, I've made myself like a little feather fan. I don't want to get too close on it. I've got a sigil, my personal sigil on this. Which I'm obscuring, but I use
What
that
feathers?
to. There's a magpie, there's a pheasant, there's a couple of pheasant feathers, there's a couple of magpie feathers, and there's a couple of like really clean woodland pigeon feathers here.
Love it. Yeah, don't forget the
Yeah.
pigeons, man. They are important as well. We need to use
The,
their magic.
the pigeons are everywhere. They know
They're everywhere.
all. Like, they're a
Exactly.
network, a syndicate
Yeah.
of spiritual gangsters. Don't mess with the pigeons.
Oh my god, I love that. I need a t-shirt that says that.
Yeah. I really just wanted to I wanted to show a couple of the tools that I use when I'm getting into journey work, because for me it is about setting my sense of smell. It's about setting the environment. I more often than not will have some kind of ritual bath beforehand so I feel cleansed. Sometimes I'll even do journey work in the bath. Oh god, I have a great story around that.
Okay.
Um I was doing some journey work in the bath, and I think this particular time I was wanting to do some work with, water deities. So, called to the Mother of Water, and I was then in the bathtub, and I was transported to like an underwater area, and it was sort of clear but foggy, and I could see things in the background moving around, and then one entity comes up to me, and the only way I can describe it is some kind of mermaid, and she looked me dead in the eye, and it was sort of like a curiosity, like, how did you get here type of thing, but we're not upset that you are. Come and follow us. So in that come and follow us, and this wasn't in English, this was all telekinesis, telepathy, pulls me under the water. And as she's pulling me under the water, I physically, in the bath, go under the water. And I have to, like, pull myself up out of the bathtub to completely prevent myself from being pulled with her. Because out of pure curiosity, in wanting to show me what she wanted to show me, tried to yank me out of this realm. And no, I wasn't high in the bathtub and suddenly fell in the bathtub. It was none of that. It was just a really authentic experience with a mermaid doing journey work.
I just love that. Oh my
And
god.
on that
So here's
bombshell,
don't journey in the bath. Don't journey when you're driving. Don't journey when you're operating heavy machinery. Okay? Don't do it.
I was able I was able to pull myself out of the bath, but I don't know how many people would have been able
I'm just
to.
saying thank goodness. Thank baby
Yeah.
Jesus for that. Um
On that
is
bombshell.
that is that
Go
sorry.
on. No, you
Is
go
that the
on.
mermaid that you painted? Is that the mermaid that you
Yes.
painted? Oh my gosh,
Yes.
guys. Jay, you have to I don't know if you want to send me a picture of it to put
I'm
on here
I'm
or
going
not.
we're gonna put this up. We're definitely gonna put up
Okay,
the
great.
mermaid.
It is
She's very
literally
haunting.
so haunting, so stunning. I remember the first time I walked into Jay's house, and there's her paintings are everywhere, right? So you're just surrounded by this phenomenal beauty. But this one just drew me in, and it wasn't even like, oh, I like that one the most. It just like I
Yeah.
couldn't stop looking at her. Haunting is the word. She just like
Feels the most
ridiculous.
real.
Yeah, she's so
Yeah.
real. She literally almost
Yeah.
like dragged you out of this universe.
Dragged you down with her, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. There's probably a cautionary tale as to why you shouldn't be so like wantonly trying to engage with deities. You really
Yeah, and
shouldn't.
also I always hear bad things about mermaids. Apart from like the Little Mermaid, Ariel, like all the rest of them, like you don't trust them.
Don't mess with them. I have a
Don't mess
secret
with them.
theory, and I guess it's not secret anymore. I have a theory that Atlanteans that were humans that somehow adapted to. If you go into the whole aquatic ape theory of humans
Mhm.
originally being like aquatic apes, that's why we're like hairless. That's why we're, um, as soon as you give, as soon as you put a baby in water, they can like swim right away. Um,
Yeah, that's
I,
crazy.
I, I think I think mermaids are just Atlanteans that went underground because they had to take their knowledge with them or some shit. But I'm sure there's a whole nother episode that we're going to do on like crazy conspiracy theories, and you can all drag me on that one, yeah. So
Oh, I
we'll
can't
leave
wait
that
for
to them.
that.
I know you're very good at bringing books or resources that you have that you'd like to share with people. What have you got for us today?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many, and they're not even all here because yeah, I couldn't bring all of my books. Basically, I need to bring about 20 books. Um, so I've got. I just think if you want to start a journey work, like just like
Yeah,
as in shamanic journeying. So really simply, without any medicines or anything like that, just the shamanic journeying, I would recommend this book by you see it okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so shamanic journeying, and it's by Sandra Ingerman. I don't know why I ordered this one. It's got like giant writing in it, but you can get it in normal size. But
I
this
need
is
that.
amazing. You do need
Yeah,
Jay, you do need this because like, Sandra Ingerman she's a psychologist, I think, but she pretty much only does soul retrieval now, but she trained in psychology back in like I don't know 70s, something like that. And
yeah,
she's one of the people that has kind of brought shamanic journeying into the mainstream. And she's amazing. She writes in a really easy way to understand. What I love about this
yeah.
book is it's completely and utterly broken down. So it talks to you about shamanism, it talks to you about all of the different worlds and what they mean, it talks to you about the kind of things that you might meet there. She's given you a lot of examples of things that she's done. For example, so she uses journeying for everything in her life. She
Mm.
tells a story in this book which is about, she had a car, like an old truck. She's American, they've all got trucks over there, like, and there was something wrong with it, and she just didn't, she just felt like as a woman, unfortunately, you go to the car garage and they will literally charge you shitloads of money, do loads of stuff because they
Yeah,
think you just don't get it because you're a girl. So she did a journey on what was wrong with her
yeah,
car, and there was this really specific thing. Like I can't even try and explain it to you because it's so like fucking mechanical. I don't even know what these bits inside a car are called. But anyway, this specific little bit
yeah,
that was inside the car you wouldn't know about unless you could build a car.
yeah.
And she was told in her journey that that's what was something was wrong with that. So she took it to the garage. She told the mechanic, so this is what's wrong with the car, and he was like, "Nah, babe, there's no way you'd even know if that was the thing." He
You don't
opens
know
up the
that's a
bonnet and he's like,
word.
"You don't even know that's a word." Like, he opens up the bonnet, and that is the thing that's gone wrong with the car. And she
Wow.
says, like, so she uses it over and over for things like this. Now, obviously, she's been doing this for decades. But one of my favorite things about this book is that she has in it a whole list of intentions that you can have for your journeys. So sometimes I really struggle. I want a journey. I'm like, but there's not necessarily something specific I want a journey about,
Yeah.
or just feel a bit overwhelmed, and she's saying, okay, well, you can go and you can journey through history to learn about your ancestors. You
Yeah.
can journey to receive spiritual, psychological, or medical help. You can journey to interpret dreams and other experiences that you've had. You can journey to connect with the natural world, which is something that I guess we've done quite a lot, and we've done within our IBA practice. So you're journeying to meet the spirits
Mm.
of the land
The
that you live
natural
in.
realm.
Or
Yeah.
exactly, or you're journeying to receive instructions on creating ritual or ceremony, or there's just so much you can do. So Sandra Ingerman's shamanic journeying, and then if you want to go even deeper than that, I feel like this isn't something that you just do, but I feel like it's a really uh good thing for Westerners to start to understand about the different concepts of our psychology. So, like, soul retrieval, I feel like is a really important. Sorry, now I need another fucking word. I'm so sorry. thing
Important
to
shot.
think about. So she's also got that one, just called Soul Retrieval by Sandra
Oh,
Ingerman, and then Alberto Velodo again, Mending the Past and Healing the Future is Soul Retrieval. Now these I would definitely give a read, just to kind of um, give you a bit more of a deeper understanding into the potentials of journeying and what we can do with it, because it's
yeah,
it's like so full. It isn't just so you
yeah.
could do one thing. But yeah, do you have any books, or did I just bring out the library?
You brought out the library. Everything that I know about Journeywork has either been learned endogenously through doing Journeywork and just doing Journeywork on Journeywork to ask about
Mm.
the last piece of Journeywork, or through through the Ovia mentorship. Um, Actually, I've found a fair bit about this through studying parts of neuro linguistic programming. My cousin's
Mm.
an NLP practitioner, and was kind enough to give me an introductory course where we started essentially doing an activity that was very much like journey work, where similarly to what I learned from that motivational speaker when I was a child, it was picking something that you want in your life and being so very specific about, like, what your ideal day looks like when you're getting out of bed, what you put your what your carpet or floor feels like underneath your feet, what the smells feel like, literally going into every single detail of what your ideal day looks like and repeating that on a daily basis. So for me, it was about sort of recording this journey out initially on my voice recorder on my phone, and then just playing this to myself every single morning. And I feel it's really propelled me because I'm kind of directing myself to that timeline, that place in the universe, and that's all through journey work, and that's all through like a guided journey. Um, I do have a couple of tracks that I like on Spotify, which I will find now. Um, so there is a playlist by Josh Fagan, Phagan, Josh
Okay.
Fagan. Yeah, Fagan with a PH. And it's called Shamanic Guided Meditation Journeys. So it's got an introduction to the lower world, a lower world journey, an introduction to the upper world, and an upper world journey. I will probably put this in our link tree or something, because it's a
Hmm.
really, really useful playlist for beginners. And it's one of those that I just found very, very useful, especially when I feel like I'm in a monkey mind state where my brain will just not calm down for me to even settle into a basic drum beat. Sometimes you do need that guided meditation. So I will drop that in show notes for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
that's a really good resource actually. And I think again another important point that you're making, which is that sometimes it won't work.
Mm.
Sometimes monkey mind is there and you need to adjust the practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I journeying. Oh god, do you know what? Now that we're literally about to wrap up, I'm like, there's this and there's this and there's this and there's this that I need to talk about, and there's that I need to talk about. There's so much more. So obviously we will have to do a part 2 of journey work, and also
Yeah.
maybe bring some journeys for people to do. Um, but in the
We're
meantime,
definitely
guys,
going to
read those
be
books.
bringing some journeys. This for us has been like a series one of the Afro Animist
Hmm.
podcast, and we're starting to look into what we're going to be doing for series two to make this even better, even juicier. There are going to be a lot of part twos in series two,
Hmm.
but we're definitely going to be approaching it in a really fresh way with some like tips and like more instructional stuff, some more actual journey work,
Yeah.
which I guess leads us on to the journey work that we will be doing at the Magical Women's Conference this October the 15th. Yeah, our talk is going to be called Afro Indigenous Practice and the Shadow. So in this talk about working with the shadow in the context of Afro-Indigenous practices, we'll be sharing history about the sacred craft of Obeah, which is a type of chaos magic. You know, hear us talk about that all the time. Because it's a closed practice, we're going to have a slightly more omnist approach to the journey work, to shadow work, and this is such a necessary practice. So we're really delighted to be bringing it with all of the people at the Magical Women's Conference, where they'll be able to engage in this sort of shadow work, journey work practice that we're going to be talking about, and then ending with a really nice journey at the end that will help
Hmm.
people drop down into those realms to be able to find a way to um, get into a good shadow work practice.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, guys. So if you are about in London on the 15th of
Yeah.
October 2022, we expect to see you there. Um,
And this again is in the link tree. So you have all of this information here. Do get yourself a ticket. There's going to be some great speakers lined up, us
mhm.
included. So
Yes.
yeah, come down and listen to us talk.
And like Jay said before, uh, we're coming back in a couple of months. So we're going to have a break for a little while. And then we're going to come back with our series 2. Um, what do you guys want to hear about? I really want to put this call out.
Mm.
Like, if there's anything, I know we have said this before on our podcast, but like, if there's anything that you would love to hear us talk about, if there's anyone out there who feels that they would love to come and share their tools, their techniques, their real life stories, like we are 1,000% here for it.
Mm.
So watch this space.
Watch this space.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see you when we come back.
We will do. And thank you. Thank you so much, you beautiful, beautiful being of the multiverse, for listening to the Afro Animist podcast. With me, J. Percy the artist.
And me, Nicola.
See
See
you
you
soon.
soon.